Effects of Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR, on emotion regulation in social anxiety disorder. This is by Philip Golden and James Gross. Published in the National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health, HHS Public Access. Abstract. Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, MBSR, is an established program shown to reduce symptoms of stress, anxiety, and depression. MBSR is believed to alter emotional responding by modifying cognitive affective processes. Given that social anxiety disorder is characterized by emotional and attentional biases, as well as distorted negative self-beliefs, we examined MBSR-related changes in the brain behavior indices of emotional reactivity and regulation of negative self-beliefs in patients with SAD. 16 patients underwent functional MRI while reacting to negative self-beliefs and while regulating negative emotions using two types of attention deployment emotion regulation: breath-focused attention and distraction-focused attention. Post-MBSR, 14 patients completed neuroimaging assessments. Compared with the baseline, MBSR completers showed improvement in anxiety and depression symptoms and self-esteem. During the breath-focused attention task, but not the distraction-focused attention task, they also showed decreased negative emotion experience, reduced amygdala activity, and increased activity in brain regions implicated in attentional deployment. MBSR training in patients with SAD may reduce emotional reactivity while enhancing emotional regulation. These changes might facilitate reduction in SAD-related avoidance behaviors, clinical symptoms, and automatic emotional reactivity to negative self-beliefs in adults with SAD. The concept of mindfulness has attracted attention in the domains of basic emotion research, clinical science, and social cognitive affective neuroscience. The most studied form of mindfulness training in the United States is mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, a structured group program of mindfulness training developed by Kabat-Zinn in 1990. There is also an increasing interest in mindfulness-based exercises in the context of clinical interventions for anxiety and depression disorders, as well as other clinical problems. At this stage in the field's development, we believe it's useful to apply Western psychological models of cognitive affective processes to the study of mindfulness in order to clarify how mindfulness training works. More specifically, we suggest that an emotion regulation framework may help clarify the processes that underlie MBSR, processes that may be distinct from those implicated in other more traditional modalities, such as cognitive behavioral therapy. Mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, consists of multiple forms of mindfulness practice, including formal and informal meditation practice, as well as hatha yoga. Kabat-Zinn, 1990. The formal practice consists of breath-focused attention, body scan-based attention to the transient nature of sensory experience, shifting attention across sensory modalities, open monitoring of moment-to-moment experience, walking meditation, and eating meditation. Informal practice entails brief pauses involving volitional shifting attention to present moment awareness. Together, this package of mindfulness practices aims to enhance the ability to observe the immediate content of experience, specifically the transient nature of thoughts, emotion, memories, mental images, and physical sensation, the specific forms of non-elaborative, non-conceptual attention-focusing meditations that are introduced in MBSR are focused attention defined as object-based, example, sensations induced during breathing. Volitional selective attention in the present moment with ongoing assessment of the quality of attention. And open monitoring, defined as settling attention into a state of mere observation or monitoring in the present moment on any experience, thought, emotion, physical sensation, without any explicit focus on an object. Although there are no explicit instruction in changing the nature of thinking or emotional reactivity, MBSR has been shown to diminish the habitual tendency to emotionally react to and ruminate about transitory thoughts and physical sensations, to reduce stress, depression, and anxiety symptoms, to modify distorted patterns of self-view, amplify immune functioning, and enhance behavioral self-regulation, and improve volitional orienting of attention. Recent functional neuroimaging studies of MBSR have provided evidence of reduced narrative and conceptual and increased experiential and sensory self-focus at post-MBSR and decreased conceptual linguistic self-referential processing from pre to post-MBSR. MBSR and emotion regulation. Theorists have suggested that MBSR may reduce symptoms of stress, anxiety, and depression by modifying emotion regulation abilities, but it's not yet clear which specific abilities may be enhanced by MBSR. This is because emotion regulation refers to a variety of strategies that can be implemented at different points during the emotional generative process to influence which emotions arise, when and how they occur, and how these emotions are experienced and expressed. Distinct forms of emotion regulation have their own neural circuitry and temporal features. The process model of emotion regulation proposes 5 families of emotion regulation strategies, including situation selection, situation modification, attentional deployment, cognitive change, and response modulation. There is evidence that MBSR and long-term mindfulness meditation practice may directly influence attentional deployment, specifically the ability to exert cognitive control of negative rumination, self-focused attention, attention allocation, and regulation, and orienting to a spatial cue. Lutz and others have proposed that such training of attention is expected to result in improvement in the capacity to disengage from aversive emotional stimuli, enabling greater emotional flexibility. However, the proposed effects of MBSR and emotional reactivity and attentional deployment require empirical investigation. MBSR, emotional regulation and social anxiety disorder. One clinical context in the MBSR's effects of emotional regulation might be investigated is social anxiety disorder, SAD. SAD is a very common psychiatric condition that is characterized by intense fear of evaluation in social or performance situations. Patients with SAD have a strong tendency to focus on both internal cues, negative thoughts and self-imagery, and external cues, others' facial expressions, during social situations. This attentional focus serves to maintain social anxiety symptoms by interfering with habituation processes that lead to corrective learning in vivo and during cognitive behavioral therapy. Recent electrophysiological studies have demonstrated that adults with SAD demonstrate abnormal attentional processes consisting of early hypervigilance followed by attentional avoidance, reduced visual processing of social threat stimuli. Studies have shown that adults with SAD show diminished recruitment of brain networks implicated in cognitive regulation and in attention regulation. Also, to negative self-beliefs. 2 studies have examined the impact of MBSR on SAD. 1 study found equivalent improvement in patients with generalized SAD on mood, functionality, and quality of life with either 8-week MBSR or 12-week cognitive behavioral group therapy, but significantly lower scores on clinician and patient-related measures of social anxiety for CBGT compared with the MBSR group. A recent study of MBSR for adults with generalized SAD showed reduced anxiety, negative self-view, and conceptual linguistic self-referential processing, along with increased self-esteem and positive self-view. However, little is known about how MBSR influences the neural bases of emotional reactivity and emotional regulation, particularly when someone with SAD is challenged with social anxiety-related negative self-beliefs, which are a core feature of SAD. The present study to investigate MBSR-related changes in emotion reactivity and regulation of negative self-beliefs in patients with SAD. We addressed clinical symptoms and obtained behavioral and neural measures of emotional reactivity and regulation at baseline and post-MBSR. Clinically, we expected MBSR-related changes included reduced symptoms of anxiety and depression and enhanced self-esteem in patients with SAD. In emotion regulation task, we examined 2 forms of attention deployment: breath-focused attention, the target regulation strategy, and distraction-focused attention, a control regulation strategy. We expected MBSR-related changes in relation to the breath-focused mindful attention, including A, decreased negative emotion after implementing breath-focused attention, B, decreased brain activity in emotion-related limbic activity, example amygdala, and C, increased activity in attention-related brain regions, but D, no change related to distraction-based attention.